You know that old saying, right, that you need 10,000 hours to master a skill? Well, I got to thinking, what if you only have 1 week? So I decided to put it to the test. I picked a skill I've always wanted to learn, gave myself exactly 7 days, and well, the results honestly shocked me.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How much can you really learn in just 7 days? I mean, let's forget about mastery for a second. What kind of actual, tangible progress can you make? Is this whole 7-day challenge thing just a gimmick, or can you actually make a real leap? I was determined to find out.
Yep, that's it. 7 days, 168 hours, no excuses, no shortcuts, just pure focused effort. And you know, that tight deadline, it was probably the most important part of the whole thing. It completely forced me to change how I thought about learning right from the get-go. All right, so the challenge was on. And, like any good story, it kicked off with a ton of excitement, which was immediately followed by a big slap-in-the-face dose of reality. Oh man, day one. I started out so pumped, so excited. And then, maybe an hour in, bam, reality hits. I had literally no idea where to even start. It felt like every tutorial I watched assumed I already knew the basics. It was just information overload, total chaos. So, this timeline is basically the emotional roller coaster of the whole week. You can see it right there. Day one, total overwhelm. Day two, I had to get a strategy together. But even with a plan, look at day 4. I hit a massive wall. And it all leads up to that final test on day 7. And that brings us to, without a doubt, the hardest part of this whole thing. You know that moment, the part where every single part of you is just screaming, just quit, go watch TV. By day 4, wow, any momentum I had built up was just gone. I hit a complete wall. Nothing was working. I was making mistakes left and right. I honestly felt like I was getting worse. This was the moment, the absolute low point, where I almost threw in the towel. And it turns out there's actually a name for this feeling. It's called the dip. It's that super frustrating plateau you hit in the learning process where it feels like you've just stopped making progress. You're just stuck. And this right here, this is the point where most people give up and say, nah, this isn't for me. But realizing that was a total game changer. Just understanding that the dip was a normal, expected part of the process, and not some sign that I was failing, it reframed everything. Suddenly, the struggle wasn't a stop sign, it was just an obstacle. The challenge wasn't even about the skill anymore. It was about whether I could push through. Okay, so after facing the dip, I knew one thing for sure. My first approach was just not working. I had to stop just trying harder and start trying smarter. And this next part is all about the little strategic shifts that completely turned things around. The first big aha moment actually came back on day 2. I realized I was trying to learn everything, but I didn't need to. I just needed the essentials. So I used the 80-20 rule. I focused only on that critical 20% of the skill that would get me 80% of the results. And just like that, this giant mountain of information turned into a much more climbable hill. And this is basically how I did it. I broke the skill down into the smallest possible pieces. First, what are the absolute, non-negotiable fundamentals? Got it. Next, what are the key techniques? Okay. And then, I just created these short, little practice loops for each of those things. The overwhelm, it just vanished. And this was the day it all started to change. Instead of just going through the motions, I started doing something called deliberate practice. I mean slowing way down, being super intentional with every single repetition, and actually focusing on my mistakes instead of ignoring them. And then, something just clicked. I got that first real win. You know, that little spark of success that tells you, okay, you're on the right path. So, to finally break through that wall on day 4, I had to totally reinvent my method. I started bringing in the heavy hitters. Techniques like active recall, with flashcards to test myself, and spaced repetition to give my brain time to absorb things. I even used Pomodoro cycles to keep myself from burning out. I'm telling you, when you start learning smarter instead of just harder, your progress can absolutely explode. So with all these new strategies in place, the second half of the week was like night and day compared to the first. The real transformation was just around the corner. Day 6, wow! Day 6 was probably the most surprising day of the whole week. I woke up, I started practicing, and it just felt natural.
It's hard to explain. My movements were smoother, the concepts were clearer, the results were actually consistent. All that hard, deliberate practice was finally paying off. It seriously felt like I had leveled up in a video game, but in real life.
And the difference between where I started and where I ended up is it's staggering, really. I mean, look at this. Day 1, I was completely lost, surrounded by messy notes and just failing over and over. By day 7, I could actually perform the skill with confidence and get real, tangible results. This chart really puts numbers to the journey. You can see that slow, painful start. Then that first little win on day 3 gets me to maybe 30%. But then look at that jump, that exponential leap to 85% by day 6. That's what happens when you push through the dip and start using the right strategies. And then it was here, day 7, the final test. I honestly couldn't believe it. Just 7 days earlier, I knew absolutely nothing, and now I could do it. Was it perfect? Oh, heck no, not even close. But was it way, way better than I ever dreamed possible in just 1 week? 100% yes.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? Because it's not really about the specific skill I learned, it's about what this whole experiment taught me about learning, period.
And this is the real lesson, right here. The biggest thing holding us back isn't time, it's just starting. It's inertia. You don't have to be perfect, you don't need 10,000 hours to see amazing results. All you really need is some consistency, a little bit of structure, and honestly, just the courage to start.
You know, in the end, the most powerful lesson wasn't about the skill at all. It was this incredible reminder of what we're all capable of when we just commit, even for a short time. It's a lesson in what's possible.
And so that brings me to you. Just think about it for a second. 7 days from right now, you could be in a totally different place with some skill you've always wanted to learn. You really might shock yourself. So the only question left is, what are you going to start today?